Welcome to Face and Filtro.
It's good to be here.
So, for everyone listening, I just want to invite you to find a comfortable spot, just settle in for a bit.
Maybe grab a cup of tea?
Yeah, exactly. I sort of picture us sitting by a fireplace for this one. The light's a bit low, and, we're in no rush.
That feels right. This isn't a topic to be rushed.
It really isn't. We're not here to just speed through a list of facts today. We're here to really listen to a story.
And it's quite a story. Maybe the oldest one there is. Or, I guess, the story of how stories even began.
That's a great way to put it. So we have this text in front of us. It's a Spanish source called The Creation of the World, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into it in English today. And I have to say, my first impression reading it was, well, it wasn't what I expected.
How so?
Well, when you think about the origin of the universe, the language is usually very technical, very scientific, or, on the other hand, it can be really dry, almost legalistic.
I know what you mean. A list of decrees.
Exactly. But this felt, I don't know, it felt like poetry. It read like a narrative with a real rhythm to it. It was about intention and, well, the text even uses the word love, but some of the imagery is so dense.
It is.
I'm hoping you can help me and everyone listening unpack it, because it's clear this is not just a list of what happened on each day, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a surface-level reading. If you look at the structure, the progression, it's not just a catalog, it's a journey. It's about a progression of intimacy.
Intimacy?
Yes. Think about it. It starts with this profound absolute silence, and it moves step by step to a world that's just teeming with life and sound and interaction. So our mission today, I think, is to walk through these 7 days, but not just to count them.
Okay.
We really want to get into the metaphors, the specific words the text chooses to use. From that silence, before time even existed, all the way to this very specific idea of what it means to rest.
Okay, so let's go there. Let's go all the way back. Before the beginning, the text has this section it calls the prologue, before everything.
Right, and this is probably the hardest part for our minds to grasp. Because we are creatures of time and space. We can't really imagine a state without them.
My brain just short circuits.
It does, but the text tries to give us a handhold. It starts by describing the nature of nothingness. And it makes a really fascinating distinction right at the start. It says that in the beginning, everything was a silence so profound
Yes.
that it couldn't even be called emptiness.
Wait, hold on a second. Couldn't be called emptiness. That sounds like a riddle. Isn't emptiness just another word for nothing?
Well, not quite, according to this text.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. For you to say a room is empty, you first need to have a room.
Okay, right. A container.
You need a container that lacks something. But the text makes this point. Emptiness itself hadn't been born yet. There was no container.
Oh, I see. So there was no space to be empty and there was no context for absence?
Precisely. No up, no down, no here, no there. If there's no container, there can't be emptiness. There was just this potential, this silence.
I'm trying to picture it, and my mind just keeps inserting a black background, like a void.
And that black background would be space. But space didn't exist yet. It's a real mental exercise. But the text says that within that formless, timeless silence, there was a presence.
Okay, let's talk about that presence, because the popular image is, a figure, an old man floating in the void. But this text describes it very differently.
It's much more abstract, much more essential. It says the presence had no form because, well, forms hadn't been invented. They had no name because language wasn't born yet.
So what was it?
The text defines it as three things fused into one. It was thought, will, and love, a single essence.
Thought, will, and love. That's a really interesting trinity of concepts. Why those three specifically, do you think?
Well, let's break it down. Thought implies consciousness, awareness, and intelligence.
Right, not just a blind force.
Exactly. Will implies agency, the power to choose, to act, the capacity for decision, and then there's love.
Which is the relational part.
It's the relational part. It implies a desire for connection, for otherness, for something to pour itself out into. The fusion of those three is what's so powerful here. It's not just raw, impersonal power. It's a conscious, loving, intentional source.
And it says that inside that thought, there was an idea sleeping. An impossible idea.
An impossible idea. I love that phrasing. It's like the idea of a universe was so audacious, so grand, that from a state of nothingness, it seemed impossible.
And what was that idea?
an entire universe just waiting to be awakened. It paints this picture of the creator not as, say, a mechanic with a set of blueprints,
No.
but maybe more like a poet who has the entire poem in their mind before the first word is ever written down, or an artist who sees the sculpture inside the block of marble.
So this whole potential universe is just dormant. It's sleeping inside this thought. And then the text says, eternity, which until then had been stillness, chose to move. It calls it the decision.
And that word decision is so important. It's something we can easily gloss over. We tend to assume creation was inevitable. You know, if a God exists, of course a universe must exist.
That's just what God does.
Right. But this text frames it as a choice, a deliberate, voluntary shift from a state of being to a state of doing.
So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just something that happened to happen.
No. And notice the mechanism of that choice. It isn't a huge physical effort. There's no strain, no struggle. It's not a grand gesture in the dark. It happens with a word.
Let it be.
Let it be. The simplicity is just staggering when you think about it. That simple phrase, that is the hinge. It's the point where eternity pivots and becomes time.
And that brings us right into day one, the birth of light. Now, this is where my expectations were really challenged. Because when we think of the beginning of the universe, our modern story is, well, it's violent.
It's a big bang.
Exactly. Chaos, immense heat, a massive explosion.
Energy and matter expanding at an unbelievable rate. It's a very powerful, very chaotic image.
It is. But this text, it seems to be offering a completely different feeling. It says, very explicitly, it wasn't an explosion, it wasn't a roar.
It negates that image entirely.
It does. And the metaphor it uses instead is so gentle. It says it was more like someone opening a window in a room that had been sealed for centuries.
Just sit with that image for a second. An explosion tears things apart. It's fundamentally destructive, even if something new comes from it. But opening a window...
It's an invitation. It's letting light in.
It's letting in fresh air. It's an act of welcoming, of revealing. It reframes the entire act of creation from a violent cataclysm to a gentle, deliberate unveiling.
I've never thought of it that way. And the quality of this light is also very specific. It's described as a presence, not as an object.
Yes. That's another one of those distinctions that's easy to miss, but is actually profound.
So help me with that, because later, on day 4, we get the sun and the moon. But here, on day 1, the text is clear. There are no suns yet. There are no stars. So where is this light coming from?
In the logic of this story, the light is a direct manifestation of divine will. It's described as clear and warm and alive.
So it's not being emitted from something. It just is.
Think of it conceptually. Before you can have a specific object that gives off light, like a light bulb or a star, you first have to invent the very principle of light itself. You have to create the phenomenon of visibility.
So it's like the software of illumination being installed before the hardware, the light fixtures get put in.
That's a perfect modern analogy for it. It's foundational.
Yeah.
This is the creation of the possibility of sight. And the effect of this light is immediate. The text calls it the first silent miracle.
Which is that chaos began to order itself.
Yes, and the imagery it uses is beautiful. Shadows drew back like nocturnal animals startled by dawn.
I love that. It gives the shadows a kind of life, a personality. They're not just an absence of light. They're a presence that's now retreating.
It's creating distinction. Before this moment, everything was a formless, indistinct muddle. Now you have a fundamental binary. You have day and you have night.
And the text says this is when time is invented, when God names them.
Yes, the naming is the act of separation and definition. And there's this charming little observation it makes here about time. He says, time learned to walk in 2 steps.
2 steps? What does that mean?
Brightness and dimness. Wakefulness and sleep. It's the beginning of rhythm. A heartbeat, in, out, light, dark. The universe, it says, began to breathe.
And then comes that line. It says the universe was still in diapers.
I know, it's such a disarming phrase.
It's a little funny, but it's also incredibly tender. It makes the universe seem so vulnerable.
It does, doesn't it? It suggests that this grand cosmos wasn't born as a mighty, perfect machine. It was born as an infant. It's brand new, it's learning, it's fragile. And that establishment of rhythm, the breathing, the 2 steps of time, is the absolute foundation for everything that comes later.
How so?
Well, life as we know it is entirely dependent on cycles, on rhythm. The cycle of rest and activity, of growth and dormancy, that all starts here, with the simple separation of day and night.
Okay, so we have a breathing, rhythmic universe. It has light, but no sun. And the world itself is still, well, a bit of a mess.
It's a mess. Which brings us to day 2, the great blue ceiling.
The text says the problem at this point is that everything was a shapeless ocean, a borderless mixture.
So you can imagine just water. Water everywhere. No up, no down, no surface, just a sort of chaotic cosmic soup.
And the solution to this soup is the firmament. Now let's pause on that word. Firmament. It sounds so, I don't know, biblical. It sounds heavy and old.
It is an archaic word.
What are we actually talking about here? In the mind of the text, is this a solid dome like people used to believe? Is it the atmosphere? What is the imagery it's using?
The historical root of the word does imply something solid, something firm, like a piece of metal that's been hammered out. But the metaphor the text uses here is, again, much more gentle and organic.
What's the metaphor?
It says the act was like lifting the roof of the world to let it breathe.
There's that word again, breathe.
It's a constant theme, creation as respiration. So the firmament, or the sky, is envisioned as this great invisible arch. Its function is to separate.
Separate what from what?
To separate the waters above from the waters below. Now, you can think of the waters above as, say, the source of rain, clouds, atmospheric moisture, a kind of celestial mirror. And the waters below become the primordial ocean.
So the firmament creates a space between them.
It creates a space. It carves out a stage, an arena where the rest of creation can take place. It's an active architectural definition.
The text describes this new sky as an empty, transparent, weightless space, which makes sense. But then it says something that really jumped out at me.
What was that?
It says the sky didn't have clouds or birds yet, but it was already a promise.
Already a promise. That's a beautiful line. And it's a huge theological and philosophical insight right there.
Well, wait, I'm kind of stuck on that because normally we think of empty as a negative. It just means there's nothing there. It's a lack. How can an empty space be a promise? That feels like a contradiction.
It does from our modern perspective. But think of it in terms of potential. Let's use an analogy. If an artist prepares a canvas, stretches it, primes it, puts it on an easel, but there's no paint on it yet, is it just nothing?
No, it's a blank canvas. It's waiting for the painting.
It's waiting. It's full of expectation. An empty space in this creative narrative isn't a void. It's a room that has been intentionally prepared for a guest who is coming.
So the emptiness itself has a purpose.
The emptiness implies a future. It implies expectation. By creating the sky, this vast, breathable expanse, the creator is promising that something will eventually rise to fill it. It's a space made for flight, for clouds, for stars. We could call it an architecture of expectation.
An architecture of expectation. I like that. The structure has to come before the content.
Always. You can't hang the paintings before you build the walls of the gallery. And day 2 is all about building the walls and the ceiling of the world.
Okay, so the ceiling is up, but the floor is still completely flooded, which I guess brings us to day 3. The earth learns to hold itself up.
Now we get another great separation. The command is given for the waters below to gather themselves into one place so that the dry land can appear.
And the text personifies the water here. It doesn't just describe a physical process. It says the waters withdrew slowly, respectfully.
Yes, obeying an ancient memory.
That part confused me. How can the water have a memory if it was just created?
It's poetic language, of course,
Yeah.
but it suggests that obedience to the Creator's intent is woven into the very fabric of the elements. The water remembers its purpose, its master, its proper place. It's not a chaotic force being wrestled into submission. It's a respectful servant following a command.
And then the earth's reaction is just as personal. It says the newborn earth trembled in its own surprise.
As if it didn't even know it was there, hidden beneath the water until it was called forth into the light.
It's an image of emergence, of discovery.
It really is. You can just picture it. Young mountains, still wet, rising up. Valleys being carved for the first time, still nameless. It's raw geography. But a world of just rock and water isn't enough to be a home.
Right. And this seems to be where the pace really picks up. The burst of life, vegetation.
The land is commanded to sprout. And the text, again, it avoids a simple, magical poof, where a forest just appears.
It doesn't do that.
No, it describes it as a process, an organic sequence. It says life starts with a timid green, like a sigh.
Like a sigh. That's such a delicate image. Not a roar, but a sigh.
It is. Life begins softly. You can imagine the first mosses on the rocks, the first algae. Then it says, come the grasses, the stems, the leaves, and finally the trees, stretching themselves upward.
And it says they're seeking a light they knew without ever having seen.
That is such a powerful phrase, isn't it?
It is. It sounds like, I don't know, like instinct. Or maybe even a kind of innate faith.
It's just a built-in orientation. a purpose.
Oh,
Life is pre-programmed in a way to yearn for the light, even before it fully understands what light is. It knows its source of energy.
and then come the flowers. It says they were learning to color the silence.
Learning to color the silence. So beauty isn't just an afterthought. It's not just decoration. It has a function here. It's an active participant. It's filling the world, adding a new dimension to reality that wasn't there before.
So, after all this, the text makes a concluding statement about day 3. It says that this is the moment the world changes.
Yes, and this is the key takeaway for this day. It says, for the first time, the world began to feel like a home rather than just a place.
A home. What's the distinction?
A place is just a location, a set of coordinates. A construction site is a place, but a home is where you can live. A home is nourishing, it's sustainable. With the arrival of vegetation, the earth can now support life.
It's becoming habitable.
Exactly. Every seed, the text says, carried a future inside it. The leaves learn to dance with the wind. It's no longer just a project, it's a garden.
Okay, so now we have a garden, a home, but
Mm,
the lighting is a bit weird. We have this general directionless light from day 1, but we don't have a clock. We don't have seasons.
right. We have the rhythm of day and night, but no way to measure longer stretches of time, and the light is just ambient. It's everywhere. It needs a source. Which brings us to day 4, the clocks of the sky.
So the purpose of the sun and moon in this text isn't just illumination.
No, illumination already exists. Their purpose is explicitly stated, to separate day from night in a more defined way, and to serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years. They are the great timekeepers.
And the description of the sun really surprised me. It's called the king of the day with a heart of fire. That sounds very powerful, almost violent.
It does.
But then the text immediately softens it. It says the sun didn't burn, it embraced.
That word embraced is a crucial choice.
Why do you think that is? I mean, physically, the sun is a gigantic nuclear furnace. It absolutely burns.
Scientifically, of course.
Yeah.
But this isn't a scientific textbook. It's a narrative about a home. In the context of a home, what does the sun do for the earth?
It provides warmth. It makes things grow.
It nurtures. So the text is describing the effect of the sun on the new world. It says its light was 4 things: command, caress, order, and comfort. It's positioning the sun not as a chaotic reactor, but as a benevolent ruler, a caregiver.
A caregiver. I like that. And then you have the moon, which it calls more timid.
A lovely description.
It rules the night with silver reflections. And the text points out its humility, the fact that it doesn't shine with its own light.
It reflects the greater light.
And it knew how to beautify the darkness.
That's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That darkness doesn't have to be just this scary, empty thing. It can be made beautiful.
It can. It suggests that even in the absence of the primary light, there can still be beauty and guidance, which is a powerful metaphor for life, I think.
It really is. And then there's the stars. They're called the diamond seeds scattered into infinity. But the text gives them 3 very specific jobs, which I found fascinating.
It's not just about astrophysics, it's about their relationship to us.
Exactly. Purpose number 1, to guide sailors.
So navigation, a very practical, life-saving purpose. Purpose number 2, to inspire poets.
The aesthetic purpose, the source of wonder and art.
And purpose number 3, which feels like the most important, to remind humanity that something far greater is always watching from above.
The spiritual purpose?
Yeah.
A call to perspective and humility. It's amazing that the text prioritizes these relational functions over, the physics of stellar fusion.
It really is. And so the section for day 4 ends with this line, time at last learned to count its own heartbeats.
So now the system is fully operational. We have a stage, we have the lighting set, we have the set dressing, the vegetation, we have a clock running, the home is built.
It's empty. It's a beautiful house, but nobody's home.
It is beautiful, but the text says it was too silent.
And that's the problem that gets solved on day 5, awakening the silence.
This is the day the world gets its voice, or its many voices. God commands the waters in the sky to teem with life. And the imagery here is just an explosion of movement and vitality.
It's incredible. It describes silver fish like swift thoughts.
I love that phrase, swift thoughts. It connects the life in the sea back to the thought of the Creator we heard about in the prologue. It's as if the Creator's own thoughts are now swimming and darting through the water.
And giant creatures dancing in the currents. Even transparent beings made of liquid light.
It's a vision of the ocean that is just overflowing with wonder. And notice again how it's portrayed as a safe place. It says, every whirlpool was a cradle.
A cradle, not a vortex of death.
No. Again, this reinforces the home concept. The ocean in this story isn't a terrifying abyss to be conquered. It's a nursery, a womb for life.
And then the birds, the sky, which was that empty promise on day 2, now has its promise fulfilled.
The empty stage is filled with wings.
And I love this little detail. It said some birds sang, which you'd expect, but others just glided, simply happy to exist.
Happy to exist. That hits on such a deep philosophical point. Their existence isn't utilitarian. They're not gliding to accomplish a task or meet a quota.
They're not being productive.
No, they are simply expressing joy in the act of being. Their flight is a form of praise. Their existence is its own justification.
And this explosion of life leads to the first blessing in the text. This seems like a big deal.
It's a crucial turning point. The command is given. Be fruitful and multiply.
Why is that so crucial? I mean, it seems like a fairly straightforward instruction.
And think about what it means. Up until this very moment, creation has been a one-way street. The Creator makes and the creation receives. It's something God does.
Okay.
But with this blessing, God is now entrusting his creatures with the ability to participate in creation. He's giving them the power to generate new life themselves.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
He's delegating the miracle.
He's sharing the power of generation. It's an incredible gift. And the text says the result of that blessing is that for the first time, the world heard something like joy.
It's the sound of life continuing, the sound of a future.
Exactly. A static creation, no matter how beautiful, is like a museum. You can admire it, but it doesn't change. A reproducing creation is a living story. It has a future that unfolds on its own.
So the seas are full, the sky is full, but the land, our garden, is still just plants and rocks. So that brings us to the big one, day 6, populating the earth.
And we see the land animals emerge. And just like with the sea creatures, the text gives them such distinct character.
Yeah, it talks about strong beasts that carry the strength of mountains and tiny creatures that hide whole universes in their burrows.
It's about scale, the immense and the microscopic, both part of the design.
And my personal favorite, felines inheriting mystery.
As a cat person myself, I can't argue with that one. It's perfectly put.
And horses that learn to run as if chasing the wind. There's this sense that every creature received a purpose and nature. Every footprint left a story on the new earth. But then there's a pause.
A pivot point.
A massive pivot. The whole narrative comes to a halt. The text says the world was good, it was full, but something was still missing. Something capable of looking at the sky and asking questions.
Think about the gravity of that statement. All the animals that were just created,
Yeah.
their gaze is horizontal. They look for food, for water, for mates, for predators. Their world is the world of instinct and survival.
They're not looking up at the stars and wondering what they are.
Exactly. The universe had all this beauty, all this wonder, but it had no witness, no one to appreciate it, no one to ask why.
And this is where the creative act itself changes. The tone shifts. The text says God pauses. And for the very first time, he doesn't just speak a command out into the void.
No, he speaks to himself. The language becomes plural. Let us make man in our image.
That us. What do you make of that?
Well, it's been interpreted in many ways, but in the context of this text, it feels like a callback to the prologue. That fusion of thought, will, and love.
Yeah.
It's like an internal counsel, a shared decision within the divine essence itself. This next creation is different. It's more personal.
And the process reflects that. It's not just a word, it's tactile. It says, hands that knew the secrets of dust shaped the clay.
It implies direct contact, intimate craftsmanship, not creation from a distance, but up close.
And then divine breath enters that form of clay. And this leads to what the text calls the human paradox. We are heirs of dust and divine breath.
And that right there is the fundamental tension of the human condition, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are made of the earth. We are fragile. We are dust. We break. We get sick. We die.
But at the same time, we have this spark, this breath, something not of this earth.
The text notes that we're not the strongest creature, or the fastest, or the biggest. In a physical contest, we're outmatched by many animals.
The lion is stronger, the horse is faster.
Right. But we are the only ones capable of naming the stars.
And tending the gardens.
And this line is so poignant. The only ones capable of seeking the Creator, even when we forget him.
That line really got to me when I read it. Seeking the Creator, even when we forget him. It's like there's a built-in homing beacon inside us that we don't always even realize is on.
We are wired for connection back to the source, whether we consciously acknowledge it or not.
And then humanity is given a mandate, a job. Rule the earth, but care for it. It frames the world as our first home.
That phrase, rule the earth, has been the source of a lot of trouble over the centuries.
Because people hear rule and they think dominate, exploit, use it for all it's worth.
Exactly. Strip mining, pollution, deforestation. But the text immediately pairs it with a balancing phrase. But care for it. The original sense of that word rule is more like stewardship.
So it's not the rule of a tyrant over a conquered people.
No. It's the rule of a gardener over a beloved garden. A gardener has authority, yes. They decide where to plant, what to prune, but everything they do is for the good of the garden. They serve it, you take care of your home, you don't burn it down.
So humanity is placed in the garden as its caretaker. The masterpiece is complete, and this finally brings us to the end of the work week, to day 7, the rest that blesses.
And the text begins by recapping that the system is complete. Everyone and everything knows its role. The light knows how to shine, the sky knows how to hold the rain, the earth knows how to bloom, and humanity knows how to exist.
And then it says, God rested. But the text is very, very clear on one point. God did not rest because he was tired.
No. An omnipotent being doesn't run out of energy. He didn't need to take a nap and recover.
So why do it? If it's not necessary for recovery, what is the point of the rest?
The text says he rested to teach, to establish a model. And the lesson is that rest is also creation.
That's a deep concept. How is rest an act of creation? It feels like the opposite. Rest is the absence of creating, isn't it?
Not in this worldview. In this view, rest is the act that completes and sanctifies creation. The text gives us this incredible insight. Stopping is a way of blessing what you love.
Stopping is a way of blessing what you love. Say more about that.
Think about a sculptor working on a statue. As long as their chisel is hitting the stone, as long as they're working and changing and fixing, the work isn't finished. It's still in process.
Okay.
It is only at the moment when the sculptor puts down the chisel, steps back, and just looks. That is the moment they declare it finished. That is the moment they can say, it is good. The stopping is what validates the work.
So the pause is what gives the work its value. If you never stop, you never actually appreciate what you've done.
Exactly. If you never stop the labor, you become a slave to the process itself. You never get to enjoy the fruit of the labor. By stopping, God sanctifies the creation. He declares it worthy of enjoyment, of wonder.
And it says, he made the day holy so that the world would remember that not everything is work, that wonder exists too.
And you cannot experience wonder when you're rushing. You can't feel awe when you're checking things off a to-do list. Wonder requires a pause. It requires you to be still.
Which leads us to the epilogue of the text, the world in human hands. It's a kind of coda to the whole story.
It is. It reminds us that the rhythms established in those first days are still going. The universe keeps turning. The stars are still telling their ancient stories. The seas still obey the moon.
And we, humanity, walk through this creation that all began with that one simple phrase, let it be. The text leaves us with this hauntingly beautiful final image.
It's stunning.
That every single sunrise is a silent repetition of that first command. Let it be.
We are living inside the echo of that first word. Every day, the world is reborn in that gentle light.
And we are part of that rhythm. We are that paradox of dust and breath walking through this garden home.
It's an incredible journey when you walk through it slowly like this, from that profound pre-cosmic silence to the birth of light, the ordering of the world, the explosion of life, and then finally back to the sacred quiet of rest.
And the tone is so consistent. It's never a mechanical, distant process. It portrays a creator who is incredibly intimate, who uses hands, who embraces the sun's warmth, who rests not out of need, but to bless.
It's the difference between a factory assembly line and a master artist in their studio. One is about production, the other is about love for the medium.
It really does change how you see the world when you step outside. It's not just a random collection of matter that happened to bump into each other. The story frames it as an intentional home.
A home built with a purpose, for a purpose.
And maybe that leads us to the final thought we should leave with everyone listening today, because let's be honest, the world we live in, it's not a big fan of day 7.
It actively despises day 7. We are a culture obsessed with days 1 through 6, with doing, making, producing, achieving.
We are constantly running. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. But this ancient text seems to suggest that if the very source of all energy and power chose to stop and to rest and to bless, then maybe we are fundamentally misunderstanding the point of it all if we don't.
And that leads to the really provocative thought the text leaves us with, an uncomfortable question to ask ourselves.
What's the question?
If you find that you cannot stop, that you cannot rest, is it truly because your work is that essential? Or is it because you haven't actually created anything you love enough to simply step back and admire?
Oof. That one stings a little.
Perhaps a relentless inability to rest isn't a sign of importance, but a sign of a failure to create something worthy of a blessing. Because true creation, in this model, always culminates in the peace of a satisfied rest.
That is definitely something to chew on. How does the deep silence of the prologue, before everything began, connect to the silence you might find in your own life, maybe watching the sunrise tomorrow?
A good question for all of us.
Thank you so much for walking through this with me. It's been a real privilege to explore this story at this pace.
The pleasure was all mine.
Until next time, keep listening to the silence.